Okay, hello, and welcome to the African Trade Platform webinar titled Step by Step to Reaching Buyers in the US Buyers and Access Markets, the requirements that you need for AGOA exporters. My name is Tendai Machaka, and I am Head of Marketing for African Trade Platform. Right, without further ado, I would like to just very quickly start off with giving you an overview of what African Trade Platform is and how this webinar is part of what we do in terms of buyer-seller linkages and obviously in terms of conscientization and awareness of trade policies such as AGOA and the generalized system of preferences, which is GSP. I will share a very quick presentation before we go on to our main speaker, who I am sure you're all very much waiting to hear from. So just give me a second and okay. All right, I will be very quick. So just to give you context of what this webinar is all about, everything that African Trade Platform does is generally aimed at bridging that gap between suppliers and buyers. So you create garments and you would like to reach buyers, but you have no idea how to do that, or you have been trying and it has been unsuccessful, or you have had suboptimal performance. So this is basically the question. You know, we have suppliers and we have a gap. Buyers, our incomes are platform, right? So we mostly deal with suppliers from Africa. That is our number one thing. It's mostly Africa, although on our platform, we will have suppliers from other parts of the world. All these suppliers are vetted and verified by the company, the holding company for African Trade Platform, which is Foxfin Financial Services. So there is due diligence that is done on everyone who comes onto the platform and says, I want to list my products for buyers to inquire on or buy. We don't just allow anyone. You have to provide identification. You have to provide proof of products. You have to provide images and so on and so forth. So only verified products are listed on African Trade Platform. If you see anything on African Trade Platform, you can rest assured that Foxfin at least has done the due diligence and this is a real product. From the buyer side, we have buyers from Africa, the US, and the rest of the world. And all these buyers are also similarly vetted and verified by Foxfin. So before they buy anything, obviously there's multiple stages to a deal. We will go through the whole process of identification, verification. And by the time that you get to a deal, we also get to, proof of funds verification. Before you start getting all your, your product ready and all these things, there's so much that goes into getting a product ready for export. So we make sure that that's taken care on your side. So this is the simplest form of African Trade Platform, buyers and suppliers getting linked. And we move on to, before this happens, what metric or what avenues do buyers and suppliers then interact and trade? And within our particular context, we have AGOA and GSP because we're mostly dealing with intra-Africa trade and export to the US. So we have training and education on AGOA and GSP, which is what this is. We have export guidance, also what this is. And then we have guidance with compliance and certifications. Obviously, in this sort of platforms, we are mostly talking of an overview of what this would be, but also African Trade Platform and Foxfin Financial Services do offer these services to our members on inquiry. So please feel free to engage us. Second of all, we have, promotion. So now you know about AGOA. How do you go about it? Where do you start? Where exactly do you get to list your products besides the platform? How can we help you promote? So we have trade shows, we have business networking events, and we have access to funding. And this is through our partners at Prosper Africa and USAID Africa Trade and Investment Program that facilitates some of these things that we do. We then have financiers, right? You now have a buyer and we have a supplier, and everyone is eager to trade. We're eager to see this deal completed. But sometimes Incoterms determine that this is kind of hard to achieve without finance. So African Trade Platform can supply funding through its sister company, Foxfin, to bridge that gap. So we would say someone wants to buy something in the CIF, and it's to be supplied on CIF, and the supplier really doesn't have the capacity to supply that. They would need money up front. So in normal terms, or in a normal scenario, that deal would fall apart, where African Trade Platform would come in and say, okay, we know you are a verified buyer and you're a verified seller. We like this deal that you're doing. So we will loan you, we'll literally fund that gap to make sure that deal happens. Then we have, transaction assistance. If you need to make overseas payments, that can be handled by African Trade Platform. And then we also have hybrid investments. By hybrid, it's companies that are looking to scale up or companies that are looking to meet an order. They might want an investor in terms of equity, or they might want debt funding. These affordances are available on African Trade Platform through their sister company, Dealroom Africa. And then lastly, you also get access to logistics. This is specialized providers. These are all vetted by Foxfin, because there's nothing worse than putting your cargo, in the hands of someone who is not the best of character. You don't know what can happen in the middle of anything. There needs to be insurance. You need to know exactly that once you put your thing on a container, it's going to arrive there at the destination in the proper, with everything the way it's supposed to be. There's not going to be any degradation of product, because I'm sure, as Andres will allude to us and when we'll expand on, these are very important things to take note of. Then we also offer, through our transaction assistance and trade finance, we also offer logistics finance to deserving players. All right, so that's not African Trade Platform in a nutshell. And this particular one, this particular presentation falls under our training and education activities. That's it on my part, and I will not take any more time from Andres, who is our AGOA expert, and he specializes in textiles and apparel. I think I will hand this over to you, Andres. I will stop sharing my screen. Stop share. And Andre, please, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and letting the attendees here know exactly who you are and what you're about. I hope that's okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tende. Very happy to be here. My name is Andres Saldias. I am based in the United States, calling today from sunny Florida. I've been involved in the textile apparel industry for the last 30 years, and have been providing guidance and advice on how to export or create export capabilities to supply this larger market around the globe, which is the US market. I have worked in 45 countries, including 12 countries in Africa, East and South Africa. And my role throughout these years was to create orders, to create exports, and more importantly, to create jobs for countries like the ones in South Africa, Southeast Asia, Central America, and so on and so forth. So 45 countries that I've worked, their main target objective is how to export to the US market because of the volume being the largest one. And throughout these years, I've been giving a very business-to-business approach. Myself, I am an former exporter from the industry. So I was also at factory level for many years before becoming an international consultant. And moreover, I don't call myself as a consultant, but moreover, as a businessman trying to share business skills and experiences to the colleagues that are attending this webinar. So it is my greatest pleasure and honor to be here, and thanks ATI for inviting me to share my experience, which you will notice is a very real life experience. I'm not gonna go into legislation or research or analysis, because there's plenty of that. And we're gonna talk about business. And business is, how do I get the buyer and get a purchase order and make profit for my company? What are the step-by-steps of reaching to that level in this quite complex textile and apparel industry? Because you will see that you guys are not alone. There's a lot of competition and everybody's trying to get the buyer. With that previous introduction of who is Andres, I would like to share my presentation, and then you can start doing some questions on the chat, or preferably at the end. And I know, I believe Tenda is going to be moderating your questions, but I want to have this a very open scenario and environment to talk about business and only business, which you guys are here for. So with that previous introduction, let me share my screen. I will talk about the step-by-step to reach U.S. buyers and U.S. market access requirements for AGOA, specifically to textile and apparel exporters. What are the key objectives of the webinar? Understanding buyers' mentality when choosing to source apparel from Africa or Southeast Asia, Central America, Latin America, Eastern Europe, China, Egypt, etc., which are our competitors. And also sell competitively, understand a step-by-step process to achieve a buyer's interest in sourcing from Africa during this industry resilience after COVID-19 and new challenges in 2023. Information up to date. Let's understand why the U.S. market. To all the attendants, I had the opportunity to review the attendance list, and I see many of you were asking why the U.S. and many of you are not yet in this market. Let me give you the reasons. The U.S. is the largest importer of goods. Last year, it imported $105 billion, which is a 21% increase against 2021. You will see 2020, it was the COVID year, right? But how that resilience is happening is really amazing. And when we see the major suppliers, of course, China, you know, when I hear China, I start to shaking because that's the major competitor from everyone around the world. China grew last year 8%, but these other countries, Vietnam grew 25%, Bangladesh 35%, Cambodia 25%, and so on and so forth. This shows that the U.S. market is still buying more garments, more apparel. But let's understand why the opportunity for a country like Africa. If you see China, in 2018, the market share was 33%.
So sorry, Andres. I'm sorry to cut in. We seem not to have your screen share. I don't know if I'm the only one. Would you try share the presentation?
I have it already on the screen. Are you not sharing? Are you not seeing it?
Not on our end.
Yeah.
Can you see now?
There we go. Thank you, Andres.
All right. Thank you for that.
All right.
So let me just recap this. Like I was saying, the U.S. market imported 105 million in 2022, which is a 25% growth, being the largest supplier China, Vietnam, Bangladesh. What we see here is that in 2018, China had a 33.25% market share, and it's been declining throughout the years for many reasons that we'll explore today. And last year only is 22% of the market. So it's been dropping. And with that trend, what really happened is that Vietnam, Bangladesh started climbing. Like, for example, Vietnam, who's the second largest supplier, from 14% climbed to 17%, and the rest of the world from 37% to 40%. That means that somebody is taking the position that China is losing. So the buyers are sourcing alternative suppliers outside China, to avoid the disruptions, which are the human rights violation, the Xinjiang cotton ban that I will explain later on, the tariff increases or so-called trade war, the online trade, lower inventories, and speed to market. So these market conditions are real opportunity for Africa. What is happening with basically everyone around the world? They have an appetite for the largest market, 1.5 billion. You know, you have Central America trying to export to the US market, Mexico and Canada trying to do, AGOA trying to do, South America trying to do. And what we see here is in Africa, we have seen a trend very interesting. Kenya has been climbing to 2018, $400 million to 565. Ethiopia, regardless they lost the AGOA condition, regardless the AGOA condition in 2022, they grow 33%. Okay, so this is one signal that AGOA is not the only factor as to why you can reach the US market. AGOA lost the AGOA. Excuse me, Ethiopia lost AGOA. And this is really, in terms of the ecosystem that Ethiopia has implemented through new investments, is really continuing exporting to the US market, again, regardless the AGOA lost. Madagascar grew from 206 to 420 million, a 43% increase. Lesotho is the only one who country that dropped 10%, but Tanzania grew 129%. So the US market still growing, yet Africa is only 1% of the global textile and apparel trade. Let's see what the buyers' perception, what the buyers are saying. And the best way to understand what the buyer's mind is through a survey that the United States Fashion Industry Association did in 2022. And they divide the questions of what is the condition in terms of speed to market, sourcing costs, flexibility, agility, risk of labor and social compliance, and risk of environmental compliance. And the respondents are the brands, the buyers. Okay, and the responses can be very weak, sourcing destination, an average, which is yellow, and very strong as green. And when we see China, the major supplier, basically it's very average on speed to market, sourcing cost, flexibility. Flexibility means they can provide the entire value chain, which is yarn to garment or home goods. But they are bad in risk, labor, and risk and environmental compliance. They are weak. Vietnam, the second largest, has the better record. They are all yellow, and strength is sourcing cost. When we explore AGOA response from the buyers think that the region is very weak in speed to market, flexibility, labor compliance, and environmental compliance, yet in sourcing cost is good. So this is what the buyers are thinking about when they are exploring Africa as a sourcing destination. There is a new disruption that you need to know. Exporting to the US market is fairly easy in terms of requirement, but yet this is the only requirement that's really created a new disruption. On June 13, 2022, the US Custom, calls Custom Border Protection, published what is called the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. Okay, and what is this exactly? The CBP has the right to detain shipments to importers that they need to provide documentation that there is no Xinjiang cotton in the value chain. Why is that? Because Xinjiang is a region that is being alligated with forced labor, and the US is not going to accept any garments that are coming in the value chains with Xinjiang cotton. And therefore, the importers and the factories have to provide documentation, tracking, including DNA and isotopic testing on the cotton, that there is no forced labor within the value chain. As of last month, just June 23, 2023, CBP has detained 753 apparel shipments. 330 shipments were denied entry to the US. Just imagine a shipment of a 40-foot container. That's about $80,000 that goes to the US, goes to the manufacturing process, reaches the US border, and is denied the entry because it cannot provide evidence that those apparel goods do not have any evidence of Xinjiang cotton in the value chain. So this is really affecting the market. In my opinion, this is the major disruption after COVID in this industry. Out of the 753, 194 released, 229 shipments are still in review. Out of this, the payments, 47% are coming from China, 41% from Vietnam, Sri Lanka, 5.1%, and the balance from all other countries. So in other words, export from Africa can also be part of this revision. What is exactly the revision? The tier raw material, which is the cotton produced at the farm level, and this is where the new regulations are asking to provide evidence that there is no forced labor in the production of at the cotton bale. Then you go to spinning, tier 3, tier 2 fabric formation, and tier 1, which is the fabric, the brands and retailers purchase from you guys from the factories. So this is what's really happening at this moment, the major disruption. And most of the buyers are aware of this implication and risk of sourcing yarn and fabric from UR region. And the challenge is testing costs, required documentation, and validation processing time. The firms, all these brands, Disney, Tommy Hilfiger, Kohl's, Nautica, and so on, are managing the risk of forced labor in the supply chain and as one of the top business challenges. So this is a business challenge in the US market. This is a great opportunity at the same time for Africa if you are using cotton made in Africa, because you will not have all these problems. Let's understand the buyers from the cost perspective. And I see a lot of interest from the audience on how to provide a good and effective costing to become, a target for any buyer to become a sourcing partner. You need to understand that the cost structure of the apparel industry, and I have developed this cost from over 400 companies in 40 countries. The main components are the cotton fabric, which is 53 to 62% of the cost. So the major component of an apparel is the yarn and the fabric. Labor is about 17-20%, which is basically, the employees that are manufacturing at CMT, what's called cost make and train, and miscellaneous materials, which is wash 12 to 16%, packaging 3 to 5%, and your profit is between 10%. Okay, so this is what I call the internal cost to produce a garment. You need skilled labor, you need 10% efficiency at a factory floor to become competitive. And finally, you have a out of the door price, which is the floor price. You have to deal with the external cost, which means how do you transfer your apparel, your content to the end market, which is the US. Okay, transport is about 2 to 5% of the cost. Then you have the import duty, which is the AGOA benefit. So at the end, AGOA is a costing issue. It's saving you money to the importer and to the factory because you are not paying 17 to 32% of the import duty in the United States, while China, when they export to the US, they will pay 17 to 32. In other words, if you have a t-shirt or a polo shirt that is $10 in your internal cost, your export price, when you export to the US market and comes outside the border, you pay nothing, you pay zero. So that garment is still at $10. Well, if you import from China to this market, that same t-shirt or shirt is going to cost 32% more, 17 to 32%. That means $10 per 32%. So that's going to cost $13 versus the 10 from Africa. That is the real benefit of AGOA. It's a business approach that is really the benefit of AGOA because it involves the cost. And finally, you got to deliver those goods to the warehouse, the distribution center, and that's variable your profit. In that external cost, you need service providers, insurance company, freight forwarder, transportation companies, and so on. So this is what you need to memorize in your brains. This is how the costing is being done, and this is what the buyers are going to ask you to cost out when they ask you for a purchase order. What's been happening in the last 20 years? Companies have shifted from manufacturing, which is providing only labor, to sourcing and product development, to full package, and finally to what's called the connecting service. What buyers are expecting is a provider that can provide the cotton, the textile, and the apparel, not only the labor, the entire value chain. And in Africa, we need to explore if there is a regional value chain because this is a critical factor for buyers. Well, what I'm saying is, can we produce from Africa, from the cotton to the apparel, and avoid importing from Chinese inputs? Challenges facing producers in Africa. What is in the buyer's mind? The US buyers are pursuing vertical African sourcing as a preference. Once again, this is all related to the cost, 53 to 60% of the cost. They are trying to get it from Africa. Moving away from dependency on China, material supply, speed to market as an integral part of the new way of working, quicker deliveries, arriving to the market as soon as possible, labor and human rights compliance at factory level, very important, forced labor, safety regulation, industrial regulation, fire extinguisher, right illumination, all those factors are part of sourcing from a factory. Flexible minimum order quantities, as the trend going to be more towards speed to market, the buyers are trying to buy less quantities per model. And that's a trend that's really in place right now. And transparency, looking for factories that can have automatization, digitalization, virtual production management. We learned all that from COVID. Everything should move into what's so-called the smart factories. Now let's talk, if you were asking me, what do I do to export to the US market? How do I find a buyer? That's the common question I get from all these countries and companies that I've been supporting. So I've developed these 12 steps from actual experience. Okay, this is not coming from any study. This is my actual experience canvassing and talking to buyers with my suitcase full of garments and samples. The first step is called the market research, this desk-based. This market. You need to understand prices, competitors, fabric innovation, and technology platforms like the African Trade Platform. This is an excellent startup because it's linking information between the buyer and the seller. But this is just the first step. There's 11 more steps after you find that information. What is the second step? Build your corporate image. Benefits of buying from Africa. You need to develop marketing tools to show that you can provide speed to market, that you can provide collaborative sourcing. What is the AGOA implication and the trust factor of why they should choose your factory to discuss a potential order? And then if you find the right person, which is the global sourcing decision maker, you really have to find the name of who will be taking care of you, who's going to be receiving your information about your company. And typically, many countries are looking for that. When I was in New York with my bag full of samples in the lobby waiting for this global sourcing decision maker or the buyer, in the same line were people from Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Guatemala, Peru, Ethiopia, Egypt, doing the same. And the buyer is going to give you 5 minutes. That's why I call one shot only. You have 5 minutes to trigger their attention and to continue the process. If you don't make the call, you cannot continue the process because the buyer is not going to continue with you. What is the next step? Effective communication, submitting timely responses. Why is that? Because you're going to have the sample opportunity, where step number 5. If you get the sample opportunity, that's a great progress because they want to see how you reproduce what they want. And that's called private label. You will produce what they want. They invest millions of dollars on marketing and understanding the retailers and the shoppers. In other words, you're going to be producing on a private label concept of what the market is asking. And you got to provide a sample real quick and provide the right pricing, lead time and quality. Then step number 6, you will wait what they say about your sample. Quick response and communication for adjustments. If the specs are not right, the measurements, the color of the fabric, the stitching is incorrect. Then you finally do a quoting. You say, this is my price, FOB price or the DDP price. Then you will have to go to a factory provide inspection, which is the buyer is going to visit your factory. Not all buyers, but most of them. They will check your industrial safety, your fire extinguisher, your illumination, your human right condition and labor rights. Once you pass that profile, you will get your first order. And then you will say, I will deliver in 4, 6, 12 weeks. Then you get your purchase order, you negotiate your Incoterms and payment conditions, you go into the production stage, you gotta make sure you deliver on time with the right quality and you provide speed to market. Once you ship your first order and the client is happy, is content, you will get a reorder. The first production order probably is going to be 5,000 units, 10,000 units. But if you do good, you perform good, the reorder are going to be million garments. You are in the access and loyalty from these major markets around the globe, and then you can keep growing your business. How you should target this specific market? There are two segments: the high end, which is the better prices, excellent qualities, fabric development needs, which is the major focus at this stage. Fabric structures here, piqué, overlock, interlock, velour, stripes, placement fabric, design and color replication, lab dips. The colors are very important to replicate, and the volumes are moderate. But then you have the middle to lower end. Here, pricing is the most important. Of course, good quality. You no longer discuss quality. Larger volumes, design and color is not as sensitive as the high end. So how do you sell? You need, of course, information of market trends, and then you need to do a market segmentation. What's your sales strategy? Are you trying to sell to department stores like Saks, Macy's, discount stores, Walmart, Target, or mass merchandising like JCPenney's, Sears, soft lines like the Gap, J. Crew, hardlines, Nautica, Nike, or the high-end, Polo, Tommy, DKNY? Or there is also a huge designer and boutique change, and now there's a trend of catalog sales like Shein, a huge market disruptor, providing cheap garments online, which are the different market segmentation that you need to focus on how to get them. What are the benefits from Africa when you are in front of a buyer? Of course, building a corporate image strategy, developing marketing tools and factory profile, very professional, showing your manufacturing capabilities. Disclose and showcase the traceability cotton from African regional value chain. This is very important. And I've been supporting many companies in Africa that they can source cotton and yarn from Uganda, from Tanzania, from Zimbabwe, and so on and so forth. The AGOA and impact on the pricing, the AGOA flexible rules of origin. This is a very key important topic, because you can import up to 60% of inputs from many countries, Vietnam, China, as I mentioned, but this is very flexible rule of origin. You got to provide competitive pricing. And the apparel business is not only about products, it's about service to the client, so they can trust their business to the country and the selected factory. Please remember, if you find a new buyer, it's the result of changes in their current suppliers. They have to evaluate if you are good enough so they can replace their current vendors. What are the buyers, man? Basically, they want to increase their sales and they want to increase profits, period. That's what they want. They are not, they don't care about where is this coming from, or they are making any impact in the countries. They want to increase their profits. Of course, AGOA is a good trigger factor. It's real sourcing alternative to Asia and other competitors. Yeah, it is a fact that Africa is already in the buyer's mind because of this. What is your capabilities of collaborative sourcing and service? Speed to market is a key issue that's in the buyer's mind. Response time and professional business communication skills, very, very important. Competitive pricing, because this is a business not only of skilled labor related, it includes the entire value chain. Productivity and smart factories, the more technology you bring, the better your opportunity to be in the buyer's mind. Future sourcing, trade war, traceability. Yes, of course, they want to be able to find different sourcing partners around the globe. And again, Africa needs to provide a regional value chain proposition. This is what the buyers really are looking, so they can trust in the region and start mobilizing some of the business from other countries to Africa. What's happening right now, 2023? Major buyers' challenges. The industry is facing a global slowdown in 2023 as macroeconomic tensions, inflation in the US market, geopolitical condition, which is the war, supply chain costs, over inventory, and declining consumer confidence from undermining 22 gains. Worldwide recession in the fashion industry is expected in 2023. Actually, sales are in the slowdown, but the good news, the forecast recovery is quarter 1 and 2 of 2022. Major new disruption, UFLPA in growing implementation, like I mentioned. Brands are working with manufacturing partners to hone their supply chain strategies, adapt to rapidly changing in consumer demand, nearshoring, speed to market, inventory control, cash protection, and short cycles are key. What is this process of resilience in the new world? I'm going to share what the industry is saying. The latest conference was in May 2023 for the American Apparel Footwear Association. It hosts 15 major retail industries in the country. I am a member of AAFA, and I participate in this May convention, Trade and Global Trade Convention. And what are they saying about the new world scenario? Liquidity as major factor, okay? Inventory control is hitting the industry. They want to reduce the inventory and they want to protect cash. 2023, the forecast is above the pre-pandemic average. The annual retail sales growth rate of 3.6% only. Yet e-commerce sales are projected to rise 10 to 12%. So online trade is really hitting. It will reach 1.4 and 1.4 trillion dollars this year. Environmental stability and governance is focused on forced labor and CBP enforcement to thousands of containers worldwide. Mitigated transportation carbon emission footprint, which is 8% to 10% globally through nearshoring. And what the buyers want to do is reduce delivery times from product development. New technologies are coming to trade. The avatar sampling, 3D modeling, and preference to seek vertical solution through the textile value chain and higher added value garments, talking about new fabrics, not just the basic cotton, but moving into spandex, warps, woven, 30-minute garments, complex constructions. So transparency, collaborative sourcing, and speed to market go beyond the traditional FOB LLB costing. There's no more apples to apples. This means that the buyers are negotiating which country is cheaper. They are negotiating which country can provide a solution to the brand. So that's what I'm saying is no longer apple to apples. What success will look like in Africa? A vibrant manufacturing sector with an export culture into African region, enhanced textile industry, adding value to cotton lint, yarn mill, synthetic capabilities, and supplying new investment in fabric production, large export-oriented garment factories potentially employing tens of thousands of workers. Many countries kickstarted their value chains through the garment export industry going backwards. Once the scale is achieved, backward linkages occur naturally. And this is the growth, the upscaling from just providing cut pieces to cut mate and trim, providing free on board with ready-made garments, design and FOB, design and development, and more important, going to deliver the finished product and ideally contributing to the brand on developing new offer to the market. This is a picture of Manhattan. This is the garment district. Just imagine this is an 80 buildings around 10 blocks. Each building is about 40 floors. In each floor, there is a brand buying continuously. It's huge. It's huge. And this is just a monument of if you see in the back, a needle and a button and a sewer. This is where everything happens. In my opinion, it is possible. You guys have the great opportunity to reach that. Many countries like you did. I remember Madagascar 4 years ago, like the stats say, double is coming to a country like Madagascar, to Kenya, to Tanzania. So I just want to encourage to continue your pursuit for the largest market globally. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your comments.
Thank you so much, Andres. That was well put and quite informative. I know you guys, Andres did say, and I should have, you can post your questions into the chat section, and we'll pick from there. Otherwise, you can raise a hand and also possibly let you ask live. But on registration, affordances for registrants to ask questions. And we went through them, and after looking at Andres' presentation, figured that most of this would be covered by that presentation, which will be made available on our website, African Trade Platform website. But just a few that we have collected for you, Andres. We have a question from, let me try and pronounce this right, Balasaranathan. I won't try and pronounce the surname. But she's asking, it's a Mr. How can you export kitchen towels, swabs, and face cloth to USA? They are manufactured in Botswana. I don't know if you have an answer to that.
Yes, absolutely. This is, you need to go to the 12 steps. And your target market has to be the home goods market, okay? And do your segmentation, probably Marshall home goods or raw stores. There's multiple chains that are interested on finding suppliers of products like the ones you have. But to answer your question, you really need to go into your 12 steps. ATI will be the start, like we've mentioned, but you need to continue with the other 11 steps to find the proper buyer and showcase your product, your capabilities, your qualities, and if you are able to reproduce what they want in terms of color. And very, very important, you will have to go to a very comprehensive testing of your, in order to make sure that it has the right color fastness, the shrinkage, there's no peeling neps included in your towels or face or facial products. But yes, there is a huge demand of such products, and I will encourage you to review my presentation and go step by step to find the proper buyer. And I'm sure ATI can be a good source of information who can be those potential buyers.
Great, thanks, Andres. I think we will be sharing this recording on our website, like we said, and I will ask Andres permission to share possibly a PDF of this presentation and share it with there's so many inquiries about that. But I'll go straight to the chat now, and this is from Rindra Andrea Mahefa, and it's Aina from Madagascar. A general question: could you please enumerate an initiative that will increase speed to market? I hope you got that.
Yes. What is the major challenge of speed to market? If you are producing with third-party fabric, you import fabric, either for your towels, like the previous question, or for your apparel. If you're importing from India or China, you need to account that to get the fabric to Madagascar is going to be around 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, give or take, until you get your fabric in. Then once you get your fabric, you got to go into your production. And your production is going to take 2 to 4 weeks if you're really, really efficient. And then you're going to ship out your finished goods another 4 weeks to the US market. If you do that, you're talking about 14 to 16 weeks altogether. So speed to market means how quick you can deliver to the market once you receive your purchase order. If you are sourcing fabric from China, you are adding that into the length of the process. So the initiative that will increase the speed to market, and I think Madagascar is doing great in this concept, is purchasing fabric from the region. Tanzania is a great supplier of approved certified fabric, for example, and I believe a couple of the factories in Madagascar, large ones, are sourcing fabric from Tanzania. Need to explore Uganda. One of the best cotton, and actually the best cotton in the region, is a staple, okay, which is suitable for 30 singles, certified, even better than some of the Egyptian cotton, to be honest with you. But yet that value chain has not yet been delivered and produced. So the initiative is, how can the firms start sourcing from Africa and not from third-party countries outside Africa? That is going to reduce your total manufacturing time for about 4 to 6 weeks. And that initiative will increase the market. I hope that answers it.
It seems to have done the trick. Yeah, we actually had a very interesting conversation about this, Andres. And for those who don't know or who have not researched Andres, I'm sure you all have. He was quite instrumental in turning around or fostering the adoption of this, really just getting behind AGOA in Madagascar and turning around that textiles industry there. I'm sure we'll post links of some of the articles around that. But yeah, you are listening to someone who has been in the industry for a while and someone who knows the nitty-gritties of it. We'll move on to another question. This is from Marine Bengue, Ms. Marine Bengue, and I'll try and make this articulate. Most exporters have specific questions that we don't have the answer to at the time. Who can we contact later to have more information about first AGOA products. No, it's about AGOA products. The second part of the question is, what are the actions taken to facilitate the exportation of goods for African exporters? And this is strict rules and US economies of scale. So the first part, when we don't have an answer to a question, who can we contact later on to have information about AGOA products? I don't know whether this is for you or this is for ATP. If you want to go with it, Andres, please go.
Well, in my experience, like you mentioned, I've supported 12 African countries to reach buyers, and we were very successful in many countries like Kenya and Ethiopia. You know, Ethiopia back in the day only had 14 million exports, but throughout building this government investment in the industrial parks in Hawassa, Diredama, Bolerama, they have triggered investors from all over the world, and now Ethiopia is very strong ecosystem, and regardless they lost AGOA, they're still exporting because they found a way to be competitive. You know, so the answer to that is every country understands at government level and at private sector level the importance of AGOA, and they develop a fairly large information flows. Like Kenya Manufacturing Association has really good resources. The American Chamber of Madagascar has good resources. The American Chamber of Nairobi has resources. The Textile unit from the government of Tanzania, the LNDC in Lesotho, and so on and so forth. So there is wide information about AGOA. And if not just Google, AGOA requirements, AGOA product, you will have 1 million responses. There's a lot of information out there. The question is if you are willing to go after that information and get your own answers, because the information is there, all right? Now, what initiatives to continue growing? That's basically the private sector, you know. Ethiopia is the only country that really invested in manufacturing infrastructure. That's what is called the plug and play, okay? So the government of Ethiopia invested in these manufacturing sheds, like Hawassa Industrial Park has 120 sheds. They are fully booked because the rent is so $2.5 per square meter. So you have companies from Bangladesh, from Taiwan, from Sri Lanka manufacturing in Ethiopia due to government incentives. So yes, government need to be more aggressive in providing incentives to producers to be more competitive. So which one is first, the egg or the chicken, right? The firms that want to have governments that provide incentives. And the answer is in the middle, both. I would like to see a more strong private sector interested in AGOA, and I would like to see more governments providing incentives to, to facilitate exports to AGOA, because this is the revenue maker for the countries, you know, like Lesotho, Kenya, Tanzania, and Madagascar. The textile and apparel industry is the #1 export sector and the largest employer. So it's a no-brainer. You guys should keep pursuing this market.
Great, thanks, Andres. Just a quick one. Rindra, who asked that earlier question, says, thanks, it's very clear. So well done on your answer. I think I have one last question. I'll just buff them. This is 2 different questions. It's how do you export medical materials from US and import handicraft? And the other one is they're interested in knowing the HS code for thermal heating apparel. I think that one is basically you can go to ATP or agoa.info. They do have all these codes for different products, and that HS code will be there. So we'll only pose this to you, Andreas, how to export medical materials from US and import handicraft, if that wasn't covered before.
You mean importing to Africa, not exporting to the US?
Yes, this is Leah Razanatiana. So how to export medical materials from US? Yes, so it's importing into Africa and then importing handicraft into the US.
Okay, about the imports, I don't know what country are you from, but you will have to comply with the import legislation, of course. I am not aware of that. That's not my specialty of imports. I can tell you everything about how to export, but I don't know each country imports regulation. As far as handcrafts, yeah, there is huge opportunities for handcrafts. And what is the sector? Handcrafts can be bags, can be leather belts, can be multiple products. And once again, follow the 12 steps. That's how you get the proper information about the handcrafts importer. And you need to be in front of them to showcase what you can produce competitively. There's a bunch of shows as well for handcrafts. And you can really export the information of how to export to the US market. About the HTS, yeah, the product you are saying is 6112 if it's a knitted product, but if it's a woven, it should be 6219. But like Tendai say, it should be in AGOA website. That's fairly easy information to access. But keep it up. Handcraft could be a really good, because there is something on the handcrafts that I really fell in love, which is the history behind, which is the African-made, history behind. So you have a very nostalgic and a history to tell behind any the handcrafts that are produced in Africa. So that's another sales pitch that you can utilize when you're pursuing your buyers. Thank you.
That's true. So follow-up question from Rindra. She says another question that could be answered separately. How can African textile and small companies know their target in the US market? So this is the smaller ones. Obviously, when you were presenting, I guess also what that, I don't exactly know what's your mind, Rindra, but I'm assuming because we were talking about large volumes, very quickly scaling up, start with a small order, go very big. But now we're talking of the smaller firms, the ones that are not making millions yet, obviously. How can those know that their niches inside the US market?
That is an amazing question. And I've included these small, medium firms in the export cycle in the past. How does that exactly work? Okay, because a buyer, to be honest with you, I'm very, very, very candid, is not going to pay any attention to a small firm because you don't have the capabilities, you don't have the compliance, you don't have the technologies, you don't have the know-how on how to produce massively. So what's the answer to that? How other firms are being part of this ecosystem? I'm going to mention examples in Tanzania. I'm going to mention examples in Kenya and also in Mauritius, because I've seen it personally. Basically, it's becoming a part of an ecosystem through a main exporter and you becoming a satellite producer under a subcontracting scheme. So you become a subcontractor of the larger factories that are already exporting, and you get orders from this main factory. You get smaller orders, you've been audited by them, you learn how to produce under their terms, and you become part of the exporting cycle. Being a small firm, you can allocate, if you have 25 sewers, you can probably produce a good 800 pieces per week or something. So you need to also start looking for the exporter in your country and say, I would like to be a satellite company for you and provide the service. So what are you going to gain? Number one, you're going to gain business. Number two, know how to produce. Number three, you're going to learn how to produce the qualities, delivery times, and eventually you will become a major producer. You will grow, and at certain point, you can find your own buyers. But that is the cycle. If you attempt to go directly, you're risking not to be successful. But throughout these larger firms that are already, and they are looking for capacities. They are looking for smaller vendors. And as mentioned, many small, medium firms become part of the ecosystem in these countries by working with the larger firms. I hope that gives you an idea on what would be your next step being a small and medium company.
That's very good. I really do like that answer. It also works in tandem with what we're doing in African Trade Platform, where it's just securing that value chain. So it's like Andre said, there are so many things that you need to be aware of. If you are to meet or to be compliant, for that 2 to 5%, or zero proper negation of any tariffs into the US. If you use the wrong cloth or the wrong textiles, then your products are going to shoot up in price and become very unappealing to buyers. So we also try and make sure that we assist you in getting material that would be accredited or has certification that there is no child labor involved. And we're actually working on another separate program with that, with one of the guys, I see them in here, to certify certain producers or suppliers. So that's what also African Trade Platform works to do. Similarly, like what Andre is saying here, we can, you can actually find larger exporters also on African Trade Platform that you can start producing on behalf of, so that you don't yourself have to go straight and to try and tackle this behemoth. You work with someone who already is doing that, which makes it quite simple for you. Quick one. I think Andrea is asking for your email address. I think we will be sharing Andres' LinkedIn profile. We'll share his LinkedIn profile, and feel free to follow him and engage with him there. Our email address is info@africantradeplatform.com. Obviously, you all know it because you all got our link. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I'll take it that is that, and we're also bang on the money on time. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. You can just raise a hand if you'd like. But yeah, this is Ricardo Vaz asking about trade fairs. That was covered in our previous webinar. But also, if you go to African Trade Platform, we always try and put our future or upcoming events. This is one such event. This is an online event, a webinar, but we do attend trade shows, and through our partners at USAID ATI and Prosper Africa, of which Andres also works with those two organizations, we always market to our members even and give them the affordance to come through and join those events. One such one was, I think, on webinar 3. Our CEO was actually in New York for the Summer Fancy Food Show, which is one such show. I'm sure Andres would have access to many more in the textiles industry. I see you're on the lineup for one such event in Canada.
Let me just interact real quick on that question. Not about what show to attend, but how do you prepare for a show? This is really key because I've seen multiple, booths and presenters. They go to shows and they just get frustrated because they don't find any business. That's the truth of the matter. You go to Magic Show in February and August. I have seen delegation from Egypt, from Ethiopia, from Myanmar, and they go and they got no business. Why is that? The shows is not effective if you don't have a previous work. The previous work is follow the 12 steps. All right, follow the 12 steps. Get your marketing materials, get your corporate image, do your home research, get the information about the attendance, and start your meetings, your agenda meeting before going to the show. Don't just go to the show, stand in the booth and wait for the traffic, someone to stop by and say, hi, what do you do? That's not effective. I don't like that. I am not effective. I don't like to participate in the shows, to be honest with you, if you guys are not prepared. I prefer to go to the headquarters in New York, in the 80 buildings that I said, and knock on the doors and have a face-to-face. To me, that's much more effective than going to a trade show. I think we have Pasca Mutik.
Yes, we do. We do have Pasca. Pasca, you can unmute yourself and please just post any comments you have.
Thank you very much, Andrew D, for such an insightful, engaging, and thought-provoking presentation that you've provided. My name is Pascal Mteko, and I'm actually the head of financial services for African Trade Platform. I thought also let me just step in there just to provide a little bit of input on our side, and also for you to understand our objectives and vision, where we envisage for things to go on forward. So firstly, I'd like to start by saying that the AGOA has emerged as a significant driver of economic growth and development in Africa, and that is why we also have this program and these webinars that we are running together with the USAID ATI program, and also with all our trade experts in place here. So I've also worked for some time as a trade and investment analyst for over 20 years, within the industry, trying to foster investments and trade within the African continent, and also, getting investors to invest in Africa. So one thing that we've also learned, even as a corporate, the lesson that we've got is that there is a strong appetite within the textile and apparel industry for it to grow. So the industry has also been experiencing a remarkable stage in positioning Africa as a key player of global textile, and this is why we're also intervening as African trade platform. So one thing that I wanted to stress out, so that all of our attendees can also understand what sort of interventions that we are providing from our side, so that you can also get the support that you require. So we are not only just providing you information about the trade policy, what the AGOA is all about, but however, we want to provide you additional support services so that you get the full beneficiaries out of what you get out of the trade policy, for us giving you the services that you require, like for example, access to trade finance and access to to markets. So these are generally one of the greatest trade barriers or constraints to trade, which is access to trade finance and access to markets. In as much as you might have the AGOA policy in place, we're also providing support services in that retrospective. So what I wanted to encourage to our participants, which are in this webinar, is that we are currently running a program, with the USA and the IHI on our side, that I'd like to encourage you to send through your concept notes. Then we'll have a look at them. Then we'll be able to move forward, so that if you require any funding with regards to your project, no matter at what stage your project is, whether it's a startup, mature, or at any stage that your business might be, we are here to provide support services that your business might require. Then when it comes to that, we also provide assistance with access to markets as well. So what I would like to encourage you is that, can you send through your expression of interest to our to the email address that Tendai has shared with you, so that to be able to to work with your company and provide you this the support services that you require, that are tailor-made specifically for your business. Yeah, so that is all the contribution that I thought I would just like to share with you from a sustainability point of view. Then you can understand at least the scope in terms of how we are working together with the ATI and also our experts. Thank you, gentlemen, and everyone. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Pascal. Very important point. We saw the decrease in Chinese imports in textiles there at the States, into the States. There is opportunity. So that's what Pascal was talking about basically is Deal Room Africa, which is the subsidiary of our African Trade Platform, where we invite people, we invite all you players in the textiles industry to, you're looking to scale, you're looking to buy new machines, you're looking to supply larger orders, you're looking to purchase equipment. You literally go onto dealroomafrica.com and just put it onto the chat there. Fill out a form and submit your concept notes. This is what we're looking to do. We're looking for this much investment. And what the Foxfin and African Trade Platform do is then we develop this investment memorandums on your behalf, and we submit those to our investment pool in the States. Like you see, they're really looking at securing their value chains as well, and also throughout the world. So that's an opportunity that is free of charge. Just another one in our quest to make trade sustainable and assist African producers. Right. Andres, I don't know, any closing remarks? Just word of wisdom from the suits there.
Just, closing remarks. I love Africa. I believe in the region. I am committed, been supporting, and everything starts with you, with the attendance. People that can trigger some interest, some motivation on growing your business and of course creating jobs and creating investments in each one of your business. So continue what you're doing. Education is key. Information sharing is key. And today I've just gave you a business approach of the AGOA issue on the market. And I hope it was beneficial. Please keep doing what you do in growing your business, exploring opportunities. And hopefully one day you will be part of this exporting ecosystem to this very loyal market and get the opportunity to work and grow your countries, because this is what your countries need. And I want to thank ATI and congratulate you guys for the effort and what you're doing. In the past, the South and East Africa Trade Investment Hub, also funded by USAID, attempted to work with multiple firms. I think it was a great impact throughout its interventions, and I'm sure ATI, as it continues rolling, it will help you and to develop the right strategy, even if you are a small firm or an exporting firm that are trying to grow, or an export firm that are facing market slowdowns and need more buyers. So there's multiple scenarios, and it's great to have an ATI working on it and listening the industry, and hope that we can continue collaborating. So best of luck, and I wish you a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Andres. Yeah, this please do let us know if you want to see Andres with us again. I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to unpack. So we would love to always continue this conversation. One last question. Rindra was asking, in case AGOA is not renewed, how interesting for US buyers the African Free Trade Zone area will be. AGOA is one of the trade policies that you can use to export to the US. There's also GSP. So usually they, if you look at our past webinars, I think the one with Margaret, who also has worked with Andres, she was explaining that usually they one is lapsing and it's overlapped by another. So you can always make use of another trade policy. And usually it's just different codes, but you pretty much get the same kind of benefit. Although in this particular case, we are talking specifically AGOA. Right. I won't dilute those amazing and well thought out closing comments by Andres. Our next webinar, we will be communicating the date, but that will be in August. Keep a lookout for our new platform, our new app, which will also come with a mobile app. That'll be in your inboxes. We'll be having a soft launch. Let us know if you want to be part of the beta testing. And yeah, the next one is on packaged goods. So I saw a lot of comments in the chat, and guys were asking if we can include in agriculture and so on and other products. The agriculture webinar was before. Please feel free to go look at that and see exactly what the compliance metric for that is. This was mostly focused on textiles, although the underlying message there is the same. Education, do your research, and there's so much support available there through partners. Like you said, ATI, there's ATP, there's Foxfin, there's Prosper Africa there to handhold you and to help you find your share of the US market and the African market. Thank you so much from African Trade Platform. Thank you, Andres, Saldias. We will share. We will be sharing this presentation in PDF, Andres, or we'll talk after. But please keep a lookout for our email, and it will have all the relevant links, all the important points from this here, and we'll see you in our next webinar. Thank you for making the time, and goodbye.
Goodbye.